my name's Allie and welcome to my booktube. I don't know what accent I used there, maybe it was Irish. I figured I'd do the newbie tag today as an introduction and then figure it out from there. This is really new for me, so I'll be getting the hang of my little Bambi legs for a little bit. I figured just start. If you're scared, that's okay. You're gonna be scared when you start new things. The newbie tag is a series of questions. I've added a few to the end. They're not really that exciting. I just really wanted to answer more questions. The first question is, why did you start a booktube? I started a booktube because over the past couple of years, I've really gotten back into reading and I am desperate for a community to talk about everything books with. Another reason is I live in Scotland with my Scottish husband. I originally came here for school, but then I fell in love and now I'm staying. It does mean that I've had to leave behind my friends and my family and the communities that I know and love in America. So sometimes I feel a little lonely, and I think I kind of jumped into reading as a way of feeling at home no matter where I am, and I think that's a really common feeling for a lot of readers. This is my way of reaching out to a community that I find really inspiring and would love to be a part of. So that is the biggest reason why I created a booktube channel. The second question is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to booktube? Along with being an avid reader, I'm also an artist, so I think it would be really fun to collaborate the two, reading and art. I have no idea how I'm going to do that yet specifically, but I've got a few ideas up here. I'm also incredibly fortunate to live in Scotland, a country that is so jam-packed full of stories and history. Stories and storytelling is literally ingrained in the Scottish culture, and I feel very fortunate to be surrounded by that constantly. So I'd love to take you on adventures and to festivals and everything book related, bookstores, old cities, just adventuring and reading and talking about it all at the same time. Question number 3 is, what are you most excited about starting this booktube channel? I'm so excited to have another excuse to read and a place to talk about everything that I've been reading. I feel like all of my thoughts about the books that I've been reading have been building up for so long, and my poor husband, he should not have to be the sole person that I spout out complicated narratives about a plot that he knows nothing about. I wanted to talk about books with people that have also read those books or want to read those books. I feel like you get it. You get it. That's why you're here. You get it. Why do you love reading? I love reading because it allows you to travel to places you've never traveled or you may never travel, and it allows you to experience perspectives you'd never be able to otherwise, do things you'd never be able to otherwise, live in worlds that don't exist in our reality, and that is pure magic, I think. There's actually a quote. "Books may well be the only true magic," by Alice Hoffman. Alice Hoffman is the author who wrote Practical Magic, by the way, which, full disclaimer, I've not read. I just love that quote because I feel like it is so accurate. That's why I love reading. I just think it's literally magic. That sounds so cheesy, but I don't know how to make that sound not cheesy. What book or series got you into reading? I refuse to be ashamed anymore that the series that got me into reading was the Twilight Saga. I devoured those books when I was like 13. I'm not here to vouch for the quality or the substance in the Twilight Saga, but that is the original series that made me fall in love with reading. I read those books back to back 3 times in a row, like nobody's business. I don't know what came over me, but the feeling that I had reading those books, just sitting down, having all summer to do nothing except read. I have not read the Twilight series since I was 13, so it was a very intense obsession at the time. I would love to rediscover it. I am very certain that I will not enjoy it as much as I did when I was 13. I'm definitely not as passionate about the Twilight series as I once was, and have many criticisms now, but at the time, I didn't. So anyways, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? A big question I'd have is, what do you wish you knew sooner in your booktube journey. I know that learning is a huge part of the journey, so there's bound to be hiccups and stumbles upon the way, and that's just how I'm going to learn. As terrified as I am for those hiccups and those bumps, I know that the booktube community is really supportive, so I'm not as nervous. I'm trying to let go of my inhibitions with that, but the question I guess I would have would be, what are some things that you wish you knew sooner that would have helped you through those hiccups and bumps that you went through? Another question I'd have is, how do you control yourself walking into a bookstore? I can barely do that now, and now that I have a new avenue as an excuse to just get more books, it's dangerous. How do you control yourself? Do you control yourself? I'm nervous. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I'm really self-critical, so I think that will be something that's hard for me to get over, is filming and watching myself and trying not to overanalyze everything I do. But again, exposure, this is me getting over that right now. So what was the other thing that I was scared of? Oh, I have no idea where to start with editing. I haven't even done it yet. As you're watching this, I've done it because it's online, but sitting here now, I've not done the editing part yet, so that's really scary to me. I will probably struggle a lot, but I know that it'll get easier. When did you start reading? I need to give a shout out to my mom for this question, because she was really big on us reading when we were kids. My mom, every night before bed, would read to us religiously every night, and it just helped us fall asleep. It helped us have good dreams, and it was really nice. It was a bonding experience, but that's just one of my core memories of reading, and I don't know if I would be as into reading today if it wasn't for my mom and how much she pushed us and encouraged us to read and discover stories outside of the daily lives that we were experiencing. I think that was really important, and it really broadened my horizons as a child. So, love you, Mama. Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to my dad actually in this as well, because my dad is the biggest reader I have ever met in my life. I cannot tell you how many books I think that man reads. I would actually love to know how many books my dad reads in a year, because it's probably around the 200 mark. I'm not over exaggerating, and to me that's bananas. He reads so fast, he reads so much, he reads every chance he gets. He's always been that way, and I think seeing that a lot as a kid was really inspiring and always made me want to sit down and read and look like my dad. A lot of kids aspire to be like their parents, so I think the impression of both my mom and my dad reading was really big, for sure. Question 9 is, where do you read? I like having enough space around me to fidget and move around and change positions. If I'm in one position for too long, I just feel like I'm turning into the Tin Man without his oil. I just crunch up and I need to move. I just like to be comfy and I like to be warm. Love a good candle, but we're getting a bit extravagant. Most of the time I just create like a little nest for myself and I just fling myself into it and read until the cows come home. Most of the time you'll find me on either my bed or the couch that we have in this living room. The final traditional question for the newbie tag is, what do you read? I mainly read fantasy and romance. You can almost always find me reading fiction. It's very rare that I will read nonfiction. I do like it, but it takes me a lot longer to read it. It takes me a lot longer to get into it, and I often read it in just like chapter by chapter, so it might take me a full year to read one nonfiction book. Usually I will be reading fiction. I love fantasy, I love romance, got a soft spot in my heart. I like contemporary fiction. Yeah, that's what I like to read. Along with the regular questions for the newbie tag, I also had a few questions I've added on to the end because I really wanted to talk about them. One of those questions is, what am I reading right now? I am currently reading Iron Flame. You may have heard of it. It's the second book in the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, the first being Fourth Wing, that went viral across the world. I'm about 2/3 of the way through this book. I'm not getting through it as fast as I did Fourth Wing, but I think that's just because there's a lot more political things happening in this book, a lot more name dropping of locations and characters to keep track of, so my brain gets really jumbled quite easily reading this book. Yeah, it's still a good read. I'm still enjoying myself. There are 2 parts in this book, and when it came to like the end of part 1, I took a little break from it because my brain was just overwhelmed with the amount of information and fantasy lore within this book that I just needed a fluffy break. And during that fluffy break, I read Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, and I loved that book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is just like your classic like romantic comedy, but it was really heartwarming. The other book that I'm currently reading right now is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is a phenomenal winter read, you guys. I mean, I'm only like a couple chapters into it. I'm also annotating it, but it is just so cozy. I am absolutely loving it. I loved the 2019 adaptation of Little Women with Emma Watson and Florence Pugh and Saoirse Ronan. I really liked that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I knew that I would like the book to some capacity, but I'm actually quite surprised with how much I'm really enjoying it. I'm not used to reading classics, so I thought that might be a little bit of a hurdle for me to get over. But honestly, I would recommend this to anyone who enjoys just like a nice cozy time in the winter. So yeah, I'm currently reading that as well. The other question that I tagged on to the newbie tag was, what are your other hobbies and interests? I mentioned it earlier, but I am also an artist or an illustrator. I love to create, so I'm creating things all of the time. I'm really excited to have this to be another part of my creative journey. I also tend to hyperfixate on crochet around this time of year. I don't know what it is about this time of year. Maybe it's the fact that I'm going outside less, there's less sunlight, it's a really cozy hobby, so it makes me feel warm. I will just go on crocheting binges. I'd say that's one of my interests. It's like a good 5 months of every year that I really like crochet and I'm really interested in crochet. And the other part of the year, I completely forget about it. It literally takes up no brain space. So it's a winter activity for me for sure. And I absolutely love adventuring. I really like to go outside. I love nature. I genuinely just feel so rejuvenated after going on a walk and just spending time in nature away from the hustle and bustle of modern day society. That's something I also hope to incorporate in this booktube. That was the newbie tag. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you're still here, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. I'm really excited to start this journey, and I will see you in a video very, very soon. Bye!